welcome back. This is episode 2 of a 2-episode series of The Ghost Train here on the People Chronicles. This is What's the Story. We're kicking off another season, so I'm very grateful that you've joined us. Check out all the stories on thepeoplechronicles.com because they're fascinating, and I'm particularly enwrapped in this story. Last week we met Valerie Boom and Jane Runyeon, and we were talking about the Ghost Train, and I asked you, what does an architect, a lighting designer, and an artist have in common? And it is this train and this ghost concept. So Lynn Redding, you are the lighting designer. Thanks for joining us. And Jane, welcome back.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. So we were talking about, the three of you kind of met at a lecture in New York about repurposing an elevated or the High Line in New York. And gardens were incorporated, and how do we help people understand the history of this ground that they're walking on? You know, there's always something that came before us, and trains are an integral part of our country and the way we move things back and forth. Here in Redding, we have the Franklin Street Station. Trains were a vital part of the Redding economy back in the day, and there is constantly, for years, have been talk about bring the Redding Railroad back to Redding, and so that we can connect to New York and to Allentown and to Pottstown and Philadelphia. So that movement is underfoot, and I hear wind of a train museum and all of these things and some exciting proposals at Franklin Street Station. But I believe your goal is, as we repurpose, whether it's a rails to trails, whether it's a brewery, whether it's a garden, whatever it might be, as we go to these places to remember, why is this place even here? What purpose did it serve? And Jane, you pointed out clearly that necessity is the mother of invention, and it was this necessity of keeping people safe in the Chelsea district that they race a train.
Exactly, and that's not unique. That was one of the first places they did it, but throughout America they found that that was the way to really keep everybody safe. Because remember, trains were older than cars, and people were really using cars. They didn't really have like the lanes and the focus that we have today of like, this is where you stop, this is where you go. There was a little bit of mayhem. So we looked at this at the High Line, but trains have been, I'm from Reading, Pennsylvania, and the train has such great memories of both the passenger train, and I also met Lynn through a huge train enthusiast when we were doing a project in Wyoming. So
and who was that?
That was David Schumacher.
Okay.
He also left us early, and his great love and knowledge of the trains was an influence a long time ago in my history.
But I believe he was working on reintroducing the ski train.
Correct.
As part of his legacy, if you will.
And he did.
Yes.
From Denver into the mountains. So, yeah. So we met, and we all felt that the excitement of the train and bringing it back in a way that is contemporary. We're looking at the past, the present, and the future, because trains are going to be important. They're not going to, they're going to be brought back.
Well, maglev trains, you know, and Elon Musk, he's active in that, from a line. Actually, he's active in building the tunnel to go from Washington, D.C. to New York, and there's the maglev train in Denver that would connect Cheyenne, Wyoming to Denver to, I forget the place south, and then out to Vail, so that you could get from Denver to Vail in 9 minutes. So that's the future evolution. And I'm really grateful that you're embarking on this project using art and culture to help us remember how this all started. Why is the train there? What was life like, and the integral role it played in our livelihoods? And because it is still evolving. Trains aren't going away, they're just changing and adapting. So before they adapt so far into the future, and we're living in Jetson world, you are making...
I'm Jane, I'm looking forward to it. Where's that dog of mine?
Oh my goodness. So you are using art to help us remember the past, ladies. I'm curious though, lighting design. If you're superimposing things and using some of the art pieces that you've already created and are continuing to develop, and you will showcase here in Reading, how has your lighting design background played a part in what you're contributing to the project?
Well, I think light is a really ephemeral thing. So it's all about showing us what's there. And most of the time, if you can't see it, it doesn't feel like it's even there.
Yes.
So it's about calling attention to things or not, and making a conscious decision about that. So lighting design is a part of my bag of tricks, but I actually
not all of them.
Yes, actually, I'm also an architect and went to school in New York City, so
Okay.
had connections to the East Coast. And part of how I came to really develop a friendship with Jane over time was because I still had connections to the East and came here regularly, twice a year at least.
But in this case, you're using that background to show us what's not there.
Could be. Yeah, and so far it's been in the form of collage, and so one can even use light in the two-dimensional space. So where is the bright spot in a piece of art? So it might be literal light, but it's also the brightness of
Color.
the piece. Yeah.
You said you travel quite a bit from Montana to the East Coast. How does Redding, when did your attention come to Redding and the Redding Railroad and what is here in Redding and Berks County for the railroad?
Well, I guess the first time it came to my attention was because I grew up in New Jersey, but my dad was really into Monopoly, and so I had to own that railroad. Because also my last name is Redding, but spelled with 2 Ds. But I thought it was a fascinating thing that it was, the Reading Railroad as it is here, and it's pronounced the same as me. So that was my first attention to it.
So
but otherwise,
so
it's
honest.
resurfaced over the years too. That oh wow, what a cool place. Because while I was doing lighting design in New York City and architecture as well, I had an emphasis on historic preservation. So coming here, coming to 30th Street Station, working on Grand Central in the past, trains have been, part of my world since I was young, and even with my, architecture and lighting career too.
It's kind of amazing how trains are, we all have this memory, and I say that loosely, but I mean it, because the more you talk to people and you bring up train, there's a memory that is evoked individually, and it's all different. I remember going with my Aunt Feenie. I might have been all of 5 or 6 years old and getting on this train down by the Schuylkill River in Birdsboro to go on a big journey to Philadelphia, and then come back on the train. It is, and my brother has a whole barn of train sets, and you'd be surprised if you have the opportunity to venture into people's basements or attics. The train sets they have.
Right in my neighborhood.
Tell me about it.
Well, I'm in a new neighborhood, and Lynn and I were going to a neighborhood party, and actually, I won't say who it is, but he's like, you should come down in my basement. And his wife's like, really? And we're like, yeah, we really want to. And I think actually he will probably join our project. And we found that once you bring this up, people's faces just light up and they think, what are you doing here? And we're like, well, we are working on sort of highlighting what has happened in the past. But, to bring us right to today, the High Line in New York is still in some ways the energy of a cattle moving through a big space, because there's so many people. That's why we have a piece of artwork called the cattle call. It's supposed to be funny, and it is funny because it's still like, wow, it still has that same energy of a lot of things going on, and we want to bring that back and also make us look at ourselves right today.
I think we are. We're bringing up those childhood memories, whatever they might be. You have, I should point out here on our set, 2 pieces of artwork, Jane, that you did. Was this prior to this project, Ghost Train?
It was prior to this, but I have always used the image of the railroad because I'm from Reading, Pennsylvania, and it touches my heart. What I was going to say earlier is, though, I hear the train now from where I live all the time.
Oh, do you?
It's like, okay, we're gonna work on that train. Don't worry. I feel like it's like that little memo pad. Hey, are you doing it? It's like, yeah, we are. But so it's just been an integral part of me.
It's that sound of a train, you say, you hear it now. It's much less of an interruption and more of a soothing sound after a while.
Absolutely.
So how about are you going to use Altogether Art to help launch this here in Berks County, the project that the 3 of you are putting together, and I understand more are joining as they hear about it? The Ghost Train. Now you'll know what that is.
Well, we started really meeting in 2014, so my company Altogether Art has been behind it early on, but I think we're going to make this, the Ghost will be its own thing Certainly our skills in working together in the past will come into play, but we are bringing it all together.
How might we expect to see it here in Berks County? What are some plans that you can share or even dream about?
Well, what
right now?
we would love to actually show the 24 pieces that we did collaboratively and then talk about it. We're also very interested in sound engineering. We're very interested, there's not only just the element of the visual, but there's also so many other interactive ways we could work. I mean, seeing This Is Redding with Lynn Redding, and she's like, are you going to continue this project? And I'm like, well, that's a big thing. Yes, I am. I will say yes. And so I said it on film now.
Well, it is a big thing in that, I mean...
It's kind of make what you have to do, though.
But Lynn, you're from Montana.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Valerie from New York, I believe.
Originally the Netherlands.
The Netherlands, talk about a global project, but there is the impact of trains, and then if the seed is born here in Reading, Pennsylvania, to let this grow and let it travel, if you will, by rail all across the country, so that there will be, I'm picturing, and this is not my project, but I'm picturing exhibits in these places where either stations or rails have been repurposed, and they have become a sort of gathering place for people.
Sure.
And then you will help them and help us understand why it's here and the life that it had and how it's repurposed into this life.
And because it's so ethereal because it's a ghost. So we will go with, now we see it, now we don't. Did we see that? And that everyone's curious when they're not sure about something. We're not really, it will definitely be seasonal. And we are kind of secretive. Yes, of
and
course.
There's so many subliminal ways that you can use the different types of art to bring this to life.
Sure, it's like, did I hear that? What was that? Did I hear that? And so there's so many interactive ways that this can be really playful, very ethereal, but artistically very skilled. I mean, we have 40 years of skill behind us, right ladies?
That would be 120.
So we're just raising the bar here, and we're doing it in Reading, PA first. So.
And you heard about it first here on People Chronicles. This is What's the Story? So watch for it. I mean, it is our claim to fame, the Reading Railroad, and there are many ways it can be brought back to life, and the ghost train is one way that'll be done.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us here on What's the Story.
Thank you, Joe.
My pleasure.